Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd with a very on-a-budget YUNOREVIEW episode. Yes, basically all the albums that I did not get a chance to review over the past month, my thoughts on them in a gauntlet style video, you know what it is. And yes, we will go back to regularly scheduled YUNO programming. I'm just out and about today, so not in the studio, so wanted to still shoot this and get this video out there and not miss too many days of uploading and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's it. Let's do it. Ba-bam! Okay, first up we have this new record from CLAUD, a singer-songwriter who is featured on the Satisfactory Records label, obviously Phoebe Bridgers' label, and we have similar indie folk vibes going on with this LP, right down to the acoustics and the doubled up lead vocals, even the intimate personal details and knowing references are there, including a line about arguing over Regina Spektor. But CLAUD on this record also dips their toes into some rock and pop cuts as well, whose aesthetics and vibes I think should have the Boy Genius fans going crazy. I can't say this record is bringing anything that's like really missing from the scene at the moment stylistically. In fact, right now I would say we're at kind of an abundance point for this sort of thing at the moment. But this record, in my estimation, is as well produced and assembled as anything else out there in this vein, so if that's your bag, this is certainly worth a try. Prolific and groundbreaking vaporwave glitch pop collective Death's Dynamic Shroud. They're back with a brand new album. They dropped the show-stopping Dark Life last year. This album does contain a lot of the same musical elements that made Dark Life such an exciting release, but considering the wide range of stuff these guys have released over the years, I didn't go into this record expecting too much like, cohesion or an exact copy of a project. For sure on this thing, there's lots of Y2K era electronic aesthetics, samples, pop hooks, though the songwriting I think on this one can be a bit more hit or miss depending on whether or not it devolves into this like kind of deconstructed post-industrial mess like on the song It's Only Pain. Some songs actually kind of start that way, like in the case of Wish House. Overall, I'd say the mixes and layers compared to Dark Life don't come off as wondrous or as dense either, but this record is still more experimental and more intriguing than the vast majority of what's out there these days, even if there is less of a wow factor and a how'd they do it factor to this one. Rapper Conway the Machine has recently been pushing his newly minted record label DRUMWORK, as well as the roster he has signed to it, and now he's doing that in a big way with this various artists project that kind of shows off the label's stable of talent. However, having heard a lot of Conway's stuff, as well as many of the rappers he signed to DRUMWORK, there's not a whole lot of surprises on this project. The ones who stand out are the ones who historically have stood out up until this point, like Jay Skeese, as well as Love the Genius. There are some kind of clear talent gaps going on, especially when you kind of pile all of these artists together on cuts like the opener. There are some spots that do get a little rough and maybe boring, but the production on this thing is pretty consistent. If you're nostalgic for that boom bap era, that bling era of hip hop, you're probably going to mess with this. And hopefully either the artists on DRUMWORK come through with some more hard-hitting solo work after the release of this project, or they find a way to nail down some more collective chemistry on the next various artist compilation. Okay, this thing over here is a very short little project of hardcore hip-hop bangers that have a lot of luxurious and kind of flashy, braggadocious lyrics. Something that's definitely different for rapper, producer GHAIS GUEVARA, who previously we have reviewed on the channel, making music that is far more, in a way, kind of like radical and aggressive and in your face by hip-hop standards. And I guess what he's doing is releasing music now with this project under this kind of like GOYARD pen name, which I suppose showcases another side to his personality. There's a lot of grimy but great beats on this thing, chipmunk sample chops. There's some catchier flows as well. It's cool to hear him in a different light, kind of operating in a different gear, but personally I don't find this to be as mind-blowing as just like, his straight up Guevara solo stuff. I think, again, it's cool to hear him from a different angle, and it's nice to know he can do this sort of thing, if he needed to. I think the Guevara stuff, I'll just kind of stick to that. This Japanese house record, talk about a mislabel. It's not Japanese, nor is it house. This is a new album from a UK singer-songwriter who I guess like has a sort of vintage, sort of smooth, sort of glitzy pop sound with some heavily treated vocals. Think Haim, think Maggie Rogers, but somehow more watered down than both of those artists, and you know, their stuff isn't exactly like risky, creatively speaking. So to hear something that feels even less bold on this record is, yeah, I'm not into this one. New Loma PRIETA album Last. These guys are sounding more dynamic and have a bit more clarity on this record, backing off of that super harsh emo violent sound they broke onto the scene with over 10 years ago. But still, at this point, the band is standing very firmly in screamo and emo territory, with some noise rock guitars popping in occasionally to add some extra texture. The performances on this thing are ferocious. The vibes are pretty despondent, save for an ultra anthemic melodic rocker like Dose, for example, or even the song Circular Saw with its kind of sparkly, mathy, American football-esque guitar layers. And here and there the band does reach apocalyptic levels of distortion and just like blown out compression, such as on Dreamlessness as well as Fire in Black and White. It's not a bad record overall. I mean, not mind-blowing for the genre, but not terrible either for screamo and also for Loma. Legendary industrial rock and metal outfit GODFLESH, they're back. Third album since their comeback, 9th album overall, I believe. And Justin Broderick is pretty much giving us GODFLESH with the same formula he has been for years at this point. You know, heavy, crushing, thick, distorted guitars, industrial drum loops, absolutely monstrous and harsh vocals. The issue is, though, the grooves on this thing, the energy just feels so regimented and locked in. It's not super cathartic or visceral or hard-hitting, exciting in the way that most loud music should be. Not to mention that over the years, since GODFLESH was founded, there have been so many opportunities to sort of like, you know, find ways to make heavy music heavier, punchy music punchier, so on and so forth. And like none of those updates have been sort of like loaded into the GODFLESH canon. Not to mention the guitar work a lot of the time is so painfully basic. So I mean, while this thing can be loud and can be pounding, there's something kind of missing to actually bring some excitement to the table. Agriculture. Here we have a self-titled debut from a California black metal and black gaze outfit. It's out now on the Flenser, and apparently this thing charted, which is kind of rare for albums in this style, but there you go. The performances on this thing are fast, they're tight, they're impressive. The guitar work is kind of melodic too. Think, you know, high points in the catalog of bands such as Deaf Heaven, but I think Agriculture play things a bit more wild and harsh. This record is kind of short overall, and aesthetically I wouldn't say they're doing anything super new for this style, but again, the performances are killer and thrilling. The band has some serious chemistry. If only they had some instrumental, you know, compositions going on that felt a bit more unique, some song structures that felt more ambitious, as this thing is a little on the short side. There's not a whole lot of great black gaze coming out these days, and you know, I'll take what I can get. Alright, new album from singer, songwriter, producer GLAIVE. Considering I've enjoyed a few of this artist's singles in the past, I was looking forward to this record, but sort of found it to be a disappointing blend of bedroom pop, pop punk, power pop, like TikTok power pop, with that sad indie boy vocal affectation that reminds me of artists like Dominic Fike, who's, you know, really kind of at the top of the pile for that vibe, but even he is putting out mid these days. So like, what hope does GLAIVE have of being much better? Yeah, not a lot. This record, if it does have any potential to it, it is not capitalized on, as the singing, songwriting, everything about it is pretty average. And though in its mind this record would like to think it's somewhat tortured and bittersweet, it's even more sugary, frankly, than your average mainstream pop album. You know, I'm not really much for solo guitar instrumental music, as obviously I don't review a whole lot of it on this channel, and even when listening to this album here from Hayden, I am left wanting more. But you know what, I do like some finger picking. And this music is calming and idyllic and pretty in a way that feels unique to it. Certainly makes it unlike anything else I've had to cover in 2023. And you know what, maybe that alone makes this worth trying. So if you're looking for some instrumental music that is very light, that is very sweet and has a kind of subtle country and western flair to it, give this thing a shot. Oddball pop duo Sparks is back with a new album, and they're kind of still up to their old tricks. They're certainly still weird and quirked up on this record, but with that being said, the performances and the rhythms, the grooves, the vocals are not as peppy as they once were. In fact, I would say like a lot of the glue that holds this record together is sort of feeble, and as a result there's something kind of stiff and rickety about these songs that leaves them feeling kind of cold, even if there are some genuinely fun and weird ideas going into them. So yeah, I don't know, it's definitely missing something. This new Kim Petras album is just so bland and so average for modern day pop music in just about every way, and I don't know, I just continue to be shocked. Like, Kim Petras just cannot come through with a pop record that has a distinct flavor to it, and I just don't know why. New Coi Leray album. I am, under no presumption that on this channel there's anybody who's like dying to hear my thoughts on the new Coi Leray album. Most people watching this video probably think she's not really serious and just a TikTok artist and so on and so forth, but I will say this. This album is a pretty huge improvement on the last Coi album, which felt very focus grouped, felt like her spreading herself too thin. I think she's really coming into her versatility on this album with a way higher bop to flop ratio now, as there's a lot of fun hip-hop tracks on here, some fused with pop, some fused with dance music, some that are stupidly hooky and addictive, and some that actually have a bit of a substance or like a statement to make, even if they do come off a little novelty, like in the case of My Body or Players. But yeah, look, I'm not in love with it or anything, but Coi is definitely improving on this new record, and I think that should be acknowledged. I think if this new Big FREEDIA album confirms anything, it's that she is very much a singles artist, more of a singles artist, and like a live act than an album artist. But with that being said, this is still a pretty fun listen, and still what we have here is most likely going to be the most relevant bounce album to come out until Big FREEDIA releases the next most relevant bounce album, for that time. So, it's worth acknowledging. This new Jenny Lewis album is just nothing but bland NPR indie Americana vibes with maybe a touch of Stevie Nicks coming in here and there. Forgettable songs, just underwhelming performances, and so disappointingly standard with just 10 tracks and like 30 minutes of runtime. Yeah, it's just kind of meh in about every way it can be. Okay, this DUCKBOY album, this is like kind of a pseudonym of Ruby from Suicide Boys fame, but on this record he's doing like a little bit of a pop punk thing over here. And look, it's not like game changing for the genre or anything like that, but generally speaking, artists transitioning from hip hop to the whole pop punk thing, it's usually pretty awful. Ruby's actually doing a good job. This thing comes off genuinely raw and energetic and in your face. I mean, sometimes the vocals are harmonized and mixed in a very sloppy way, like in the case of XXL Hadron Collider, but still I think there's something to it, and I'm liking this way more, again, even though the bar is low, than most rap artists dabbling in pop punk these days. And I may even favor it over some of the very samey stuff Suicide Boys themselves have been releasing lately. Yeah, I'm not saying this Drain album is the most original thing you're ever going to hear, but if you're looking for something that's going to open up this fucking pit, my God, you want to hear this album. I promise you, listen to it. New Beach Fossils record, Bunny. Yeah, it's some jangly, chill, light, airy indie pop with lots of twangy guitars, boyish lead vocals too, per usual. It's kind of sad that the band didn't, use the post-punk nods they embraced on Clash the Truth to embark upon some more interesting sounds deeper into their career, because they really do continue to play it safe on this latest record. But by that same token, there is something that's kind of heartening about them sticking to their guns and outlasting the wave of bands that sounded just like them in the early 2010s. bands, as in a way I guess they are kind of like, you know, the blueprint for the revivalism of this sort of stuff. But yeah, very dreamy, indie rock, thin guitars, chill grooves, chill beats, chill vibes. It's not bad. New album from Lil Texas, his second full-length LP. He just dropped one last year titled Faster. This one, Too Fast. And of course on this record he's really coming through with the BPMs, but I would say outside of that he's not really repeating himself too much. I think the beats on this record are bouncier, the vibes are more listenable, it's not quite as harsh and doesn't make my brain tingle as much, which in a way does make me sad, but I think he has successfully achieved in making another hardstyle album this time around, but this time, you know, more listenable, more accessible, more approachable, maybe for people who aren't typically into this sort of music. Maybe he will see some well-deserved success going that route, but personally, I'm just going to wait around to hear something from him that's even faster after this. Okay, everyone, and that should do it for this episode of the YUNOREVIEW. Thank you very much for watching. You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, music, YUNOREVIEW forever.